1 out of every 3 Arkansans is a renter. Yet Arkansas residential tenants have fewer rights than tenants in any other state. That is the finding of a nonpartisan commission charged with examining current tenant-landlord law in Arkansas.
One Conway woman is in total agreement. And 7 on Your Side's Jason Pederson joins us with her story. And in our continuing segment, There Ought to Be a Law.
You know, it's happened to me. It may have happened to you guys. It's really no surprise when your landlord finds some flimsy reason to keep most or all of your security deposit. But the advantages landlords have over tenants in Arkansas go far beyond that. And one Conway woman facing eviction says there ought to be a law to help tenants. In fact, she says there ought to be several. On Monday, Ramona Staggs will begin a battle against melanoma cancer. A week later, she'll be facing eviction, even though she's paid up on her rent.
I asked him why he wanted me to move, and he said his words were because I aggravate him too much. The only time I call him is when something is broke.
Staggs says she has had problems with her toilet, her refrigerator, her heater, and her air conditioning. We had an HVAC repairman visit her mobile home on Friday. He tells us the air conditioning unit is a piece of junk. He says Staggs' landlord, Ricky White, had tried to adjust the thermostat's heat anticipator rather than put in a new thermostat, a move that Staggs says raised last month's electric bill by $100. What about your repair work? Are you licensed to do that?
I didn't know you had to be licensed to work on your own stuff.
And White is right. You don't. In fact, as a landlord in Arkansas, you don't have to fix stuff in your rent home at all if you don't want to, unless a local ordinance requires it. Not the heater, not the air conditioner, not the fridge.
Unfortunately, in Arkansas, there's no warranty of habitability.
Last year, Little Rock attorney Stephen Giles headed a 10-member commission that studied landlord-tenant laws in Arkansas. They determined that when a landlord and tenant are pitted against one another in this state, the deck is heavily stacked in the landlord's favor.
Under most circumstances, it's really not a fair fight, and we're just trying to even the playing field.
The commission's 36-page report recommends several changes in addition to advocating for a warranty of habitability, which would mandate that landlords keep their properties safe and livable. Arkansas is the only state where failing to pay rent can be considered a crime. The commission says that should be abolished. It also says there ought to be laws against retaliatory eviction and self-help eviction methods, like changing the locks or cutting off electricity. And how about a statute that would limit a landlord's access to an occupied property? Ramona would add a law that would require a landlord be licensed if he wants to work on electricity or plumbing.
If they're not certified to fix things, I think that they should hire somebody to fix it. And if they can't hire anybody to fix it, they don't need to be renting the places. I just think something needs to be done about how landlords treat tenants, especially single tenants that, you know, they think they can walk all over, and I just don't think it's right. I mean, we should have rights.
Her landlord calls Staggs a chronic complainer.
She just needs to move.
Now, despite the exhaustive work that his commission did, Giles is a bit concerned that nearly 2 months into the legislative session, no bills have been filed to strengthen tenant rights in Arkansas. He remains optimistic that something will be filed soon, and he expects some resistance from the lobbying arms of realtor and landlord groups. Tenants, of course, have no such lobbyists and are once again at a disadvantage. If you'd like to read the commission's 36-page report yourself, you will find a link to it when you visit this story at KATV.com.
Almost hard to believe some of those aren't already laws, but I know there's two sides to every story. All right, Jason, thanks so much. A bill filed during the recently completed legislative session sought to require Arkansas landlords to maintain safe and livable conditions for their tenants. It went nowhere.
And that means renters still have little recourse against property owners who refuse to fix anything. 7 on Your Side's Jason Pederson joins us with a look at the worst case he's seen in a while. Jason?
Well, it really was, Beth. Diane Alford would like to move, but a lack of cash and a year-long lease are causing her to stay put and endure terrible conditions.
That's nasty.
Diane Alford says for a month the toilet in her rent house has been backing up, not just over the rim, but also into her bathtub, bathroom sink, and even kitchen sink. She's been going to the bathroom outside in a 5-gallon bucket.
Suppose that somebody comes through there driving down the highway and see my butt. That wouldn't look good. They'd have to be calling the sheriff on me for indecent disposal. I mean, he needs to do something. He really, really does.
Well, she said she told you a month ago
that her septic tank needed to be pumped, that her toilet and everything was backing up.
We reached Diane's landlord by phone. He claims he had no idea things were so bad. He assures us he will get the plumbing problem fixed. But nothing in Arkansas law requires any landlord to do anything. Legislators recently failed to take any action on a bill that would have changed this. Lewis Flowers has the same landlord and recently had to fix the roof on his rent house.
I think the landlord should always keep up their own things that go wrong with the apartment. If someone is renting from them, you know, they should take care of that, you know, and it shouldn't be up to the tenant unless they damage it themselves.
Now, if this particular landlord doesn't keep his word and get Diane's plumbing fixed, we intend to tell you much more about him next week. Jason Pederson, Channel 7 News.
Well, having a toilet that doesn't work is bad enough. But when it's the only toilet in the house and when sewage is backing up into sinks and the bathtub, well, living like that is hard to imagine. A woman living in those conditions called 7 on Your Side last week. Jason Pederson joins us to share some good news about her case. Jason.
Scott, it is really amazing that Diane Alford was able to be so positive considering the conditions she was living in. She was using a 5-gallon bucket outside for a toilet. Our report last week not only got her landlord's attention, but some national attention as well.
Not a big story, but just it caught my attention. A woman from Little Rock, Arkansas, has been having some serious plumbing problems. She claims her landlord refuses to fix her toilet. And as they often say, drastic times call for drastic measures.
That's nasty.
Things were nasty last week, but now
The commode flushes. It does not run over. I think 7 on My Side is great. I wish that everybody would think of that. Because if they did, maybe Arkansas would not be as in a mess that they're in. A lot of people are afraid to speak up.
Diane Alford isn't afraid to speak up, but she says speaking up to her landlord wasn't getting the job done. That's why she called 7 on Your Side. And now she can use her bathroom again.
I'm proud of Channel 7. Y'all done more for me than anybody. I just trust in God. And if I get kicked out, I get kicked out. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I couldn't do no worse if he kicked me out. But now I'm doing better.
And Diane says the news coverage her situation receives surprised some of her friends and church members, people who are now helping her. There's still room for improvement, but compared to how she was living last week, Diane says she'll take it. Jason Pederson, Channel 7 News.
A closer look tonight at renters' rights in Arkansas, where a landlord is not required by state law to fix anything and where you can be locked up for not paying your rent in this state. Good evening and thanks for watching. I'm Scott Inman.
And I'm Christina Munoz. Arkansas is the only state in the nation where both of those are true. 7 on Your Sides. Jason Pederson joins us tonight with the balance or imbalance between the rights of the landlords and the rights of renters here in Arkansas.
Yeah, while groups representing property owners say the way things are has helped lower rent rates to among the cheapest in the nation here in Arkansas, others say the lack of rights for renters here is embarrassing and needs to change. 3 bills were filed during the 2013 legislative session that sought to strengthen the rights of renters. All went nowhere.
I think that there isn't much of a lobby that represents tenants at the legislature, but there are some lobbies, strong lobbies, that represent landlords.
UALR law professor Lynn Foster has taught property law for 13 years. She recently served on a commission that spent most of last year studying the issue. You mentioned that tenants don't really have a lobby, but the landlords do. And we've come across an email that kind of gets into that. It was sent well before the session ended and states, "We have won the 2013 Landlord-Tenant engagement. All 3 bills will not make it out of committee." But it warns that those championing renters' rights will be back for the 2015 session. We are in a war, not a battle. It encourages a unified campaign, so we will win again in 2015.
Anything that has an impact on landlords or tenants or buyers or sellers, we stay involved in.
Wally Lovelace with the Arkansas Realtors Association says if you like low rent rates in Arkansas, then the status quo is not such a bad thing.
Our main focus with regard to landlord tenants is always to try to maintain one of the lowest rent rates in the country.
It stank. That's the first thing that you notice.
Sanston Foster didn't have a problem with the cost of his apartment. His problem was with the apartment itself.
I just had to get out of there for health reasons. I was sick in that apartment more times than I've been sick for a long time.
Foster moved out, but he is not going quietly. He and several other former residents of apartments operated by Lindsay Management have filed a federal lawsuit. They allege they were shown model apartments, but after signing a lease and paying a security deposit, they were given the keys to units that were unlivable. Alleged problems include water damage, mold, insect infestations, sewage backup, and rodents. The plaintiffs claim Lindsay refused to correct any of these problems, and most were evicted after complaining.
Nobody is saying that there aren't tenants who break their leases and who default on their agreements. Nobody in this dialogue is saying that at all. But what some people are saying is that for those good tenants who are dealing with landlords who default on their agreements and landlords who misrepresent situations to judges, those folks are left with no rights, basically.
The city of Pine Bluff is considering an ordinance targeting slumlords. Lovelace says that is a better approach to the problem.
The changes need to be made on a local basis, and that's part of the problem with the initiative to have it be a one-size-fits-all, forced down your throat for any size town. We have a diverse state.
But Foster says renter protections good enough for 49 other states ought to be good enough for Arkansas. He's not willing to wait any longer for politicians to fix the problem. What should be required of a property owner or a landlord?
Well, I mean, if there's a set of standards for a business where people sit down and eat, a meal, there should be a set of standards for a place where, you're getting paid $500 a month.
Now, Lindsay Management did not respond to our request for comment, but did say in a previous statement that the federal lawsuit is without merit.
Now, you mentioned a study in that piece. Is there a way that viewers can take a look at it?
Yeah, definitely. If you visit this story at KATV.com, we have posted links to not only that study, but to a follow-up letter that was sent to Governor Beebe and a link to a class action lawsuit against Lindsay Management.
I'm guessing people on both sides of the aisle will want to take a look at it. All right, Jason, thanks so much.